Is it the suffering that we receive from God a cursing or a blessing? We're going to try to answer this question today by going over Mark 1:43. Let's start reading. Kai embrimesamenos auto euthus exebalen auton. What's going on here? We've seen in the previous videos, Mark 140, 141, 142, there's a leper. And the leper comes to Jesus, breaking all the laws of the Torah. A leper is not supposed to get close to people, and asks Jesus for healing. And he tells him, if you want, you can make me clean. And Jesus responds, yes, I will be clean. And as soon as he says that, the leper is cleansed. Now, immediately after being cleansed, this is what happens. Jesus does two things. He has a reaction, an emotional reaction, which is given by this verb here, embre, embrimesamenos, really hard to pronounce. This is a participle. And then this is the action, exebalan, this is the verb. Okay? And then you have the usual kai, which is a conjunction and then you have this adverb, which is euthus, that it's always used by Mark. Typical of Mark, which means immediately after, soon after, right away. And then you see these two, auto and auton. These are two personal pronouns. This is to whom the action is referring to, and this is the auton in terms of direct object. Okay, so the verse is very small, the grammar is very simple. Let's translate this and let's try to answer our own question. So, if you remember in Mark 141, when Jesus first sees the leper approaching him, there's an emotional reaction of Jesus given by this participle, splanknit, and we commented on this because this indicates a movement of the intestines, that strong emotions that come from the intestine that produce um, love and mercy and pity, right? So Jesus is moved in his bowels, right, by seeing the faith of this poor leper. And in Mark 1:43, there's another strong emotion coming out of Jesus. And it's given by this verb, embrimesamenos, which is, as we said, it's a participle. It's in the aorist tense and comes from the verb embrimaomai. Let's write here. Embrimaomai. All right. So the verb embrimaomai, there is this preposition in front, em, which is actually the preposition en. And then there is a variation from the nu sound to the mu sound because there is this labial consonant in front, beta, b. But it's the preposition en, which means in, inside. And then there is the base verb, which is brimaomai, which literally means to snort from your nostrils, to snort in anger. All right. So this is the general meaning of the verb brimaomai. Now you're basically breathing out of your nostrils in anger because you have a very strong emotion, strong passion. So let's try to understand here. In Mark 141, we saw this splanknitses, which we translated as moved to compassion. So this strong emotion then comes suddenly inside the bowels of Jesus when he saw this leper approaching him. And then at the end of the encounter with the leper, there's this other very strong emotion that seems to be something similar to anger. Let's try to understand better. Why would Jesus be angry at the leper soon after healing him? Doesn't make much sense, right? Well, we need to understand what's going on here. So think about the reaction of the leper once he realized that he was clean. Well, you can easily imagine what he did. Well, Mark doesn't say, doesn't explain, but Imagine being a leper that had been struggling with leprosy for probably many years, maybe from birth. And now all of a sudden, you're healed. So this guy probably started jumping from joy. He started screaming. He started running. And Jesus get angry. Why does he do that? Well, we're going to discover this in the next verse, but little preview. This verb embrimezamenos or embrimamai, it's used also in another gospel in Matthew and in another episode in a similar way, where Jesus heals somebody and then very sternly warns the people that he just healed not to tell anybody. This is the same story. Jesus is not angry at the leper for any particular reason. He wants him to understand that he needs to not reveal this to anybody because this is not part of his plan. He is going public, we could say, slowly. He doesn't want the situation to precipitate too fast. He knows he's gonna suffer. He knows eventually he's gonna have to die on a cross, but everything has to happen according to God the Father's plan. And creating too much commotion would derail that plan. All right. So this is why he rebukes the demons when the demons try to cry out that we know who you are. You're the Son of God. He doesn't want people to know already that truth. He wants the truth to be revealed slowly. And this is the same attitude. And so we could translate Kai and embrimezamenos, sternly warning auto. This is a third personal singular in the masculine form of the personal pronoun. So it's him, okay? And sternly warning him, euthus. Euthus, it's an adverb that we've said many times is peculiar to Mark. He uses it many times to just connect one sentence to the next. But in some cases, it really means what the adverb literally means, which is immediately. Okay, so he used this euthus right in the previous verse when he says that immediately the leprosy disappeared from his body, and immediately, okay, this is Mark telling you how fast these things happen one after the other, and immediately exebalen auton. Now, this verb exebalen comes from the verb ekballo. Okay, ekballo. Now, the preposition ek, which literally means out of, we encounter it many times, where the kappa gets softened into xe because it's in front of this epsilon. And then the base verb ballo, which means to throw, literally. Okay, so the verb ekballo literally means to throw out of. Okay, this is the same verb, by the way, that Mark uses to describe how the Holy Spirit threw Jesus into the desert right after his baptism. It's this strong force. Okay, Jesus, of course, doesn't literally push the leper away from him. What Mark is trying to say here is that he sent him out right away. Okay, and warning him sternly, immediately he sent him out. To do what? Well, we discovered that in the next chapter, in the next video, in the next verse. But before doing that, I want to leave you with a little suspense here and go back to the question that we asked at the beginning. Is the suffering that we may encounter in our life, that may befall upon us in our life, a blessing or a cursing? Now, in the Jewish community, being a leper was considered a curse. A curse due possibly to your own sins, of the sins or the sins of your ancestors. That's why being physically impure was related to the idea of being also spiritually impure. That was the underlying thought. If God had punished this person so much that he would suffer such a bad disease, such tremendous disease, he or his ancestors must have done something really bad. That was the main mindset of that first century Jewish community. Now, think about that. Jesus comes and turns this whole idea around. He not only lets the poor leper approach him, but he even touches him and heals him and turns a curse, or what was believed to be a curse, into a blessing. And so, this is the question that I want to leave you with. Do you think that that leper would have encountered Jesus if he was not a leper? Think about that. Wasn't the leprosy the exact reason why the leper came to Jesus asking for mercy? And once you realize that, would you say that his leprosy was a curse or a blessing?